So you just got F125 and you want to learn how to set up your car. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how, but every time you've tried, you've been overwhelmed by all the different settings in the setup page. Perhaps you're looking for a refresher. You want to see what's changed in F125 compared to last year's game. Whatever the reason, you have come to the right place. In just about 10 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through each and every setting on the setup page so that by the end of this video, you will know exactly what each and every setting does and you will have become a true setup master. Let's dive right into it. Starting with aerodynamics. How much downforce exactly do you want in the front and the rear of your car? To understand downforce, think of the wings of an airplane. It's what generates lift and allows planes to fly. Downforce works the other way around by pushing the car into the asphalt. Higher the downforce, better the grip and cornering performance. However, before you start going 50-50 wings everywhere, there is a downside to having too much wings, and that is reduced straight line speed. This means the more wings you have, the less top speed your car is going to be able to reach. It creates drag. For higher downforce setups, think of Monaco or Qatar, where there are a lot of high-speed corners and cornering performance is a must. For lower downforce setups, think of tracks with a lot of straights like Spa, Las Vegas, where you need a good top speed to be competitive with other cars. How much front wing you have compared to the amount of rear wing is known in the sim racing community as a wing gap. It basically determines the balance of your car. The bigger this gap, the more oversteery your setup will be. The smaller the gap, the more stable your car will be at the expense of having less rotation. Remember, if a car is too stable, it will forcibly be slow. A good place to start is to determine the amount of rear wing you need for any given track. Then head out on track with different wing gap combinations till you find the right combo that works for you. In F1 cars, power only ever goes to the rear wheels. Therefore, these differential settings only apply to the rear wheels of the car. In real life, differential is a system that allows both tires to spin at different rates to allow both wheels to travel in a natural path around a corner. This is because the wheel on the inside will always travel less distance than the one on the outside. The higher you go in your differential settings, both wheels will be forced to spin at the same rate. This is called a locked differential. The closer you bring this setting down towards the minimum amount, the more you allow both tires to spin at different rates. This will have a different effect on the car depending on whether you are currently on throttle or off throttle. Let's take a look. On throttle differential refers to the behavior of the car when you are accelerating. With a higher setting where both tires are forced to spin at the same rate, you will have more raw power to push the car out of the corner. This is because the engine is delivering the exact same amount of power to both wheels. However, since the inner tire is forced to spin at a faster rate than it needs to, you might suddenly break traction and have what is called a snap oversteer. This is when the inner tire suddenly breaks loose and the rear of your car suddenly wants to murder you. A lower on-throttle differential will be a little slower but be more stable. Try to run the setting as high as you comfortably can while still being consistent. If you happen to get wing damage in the race, using a slightly lower on-throttle differential might help get the car rotated. Off-throttle differential refers to the behavior of the differential when you are off the throttle, generally under braking or sometimes coasting. The lower the setting, the looser your car will be under braking. A higher setting will allow us to create more stability but more understeer. In qualifying, you want to run this setting as low as you possibly can. In the race, you might want to run this setting a little higher to help you maintain consistency, especially as the tires start to fade away over the distance of a race. You can also use a higher brake bias to create more stability, which is something we're going to talk about in a little bit. There are multiple ways to make a setup more stable, but remember, the more stable a car is, the more you're going to be leaving lap time on the table. Camber determines how much the tires lean towards the car when viewed from the front of the car. The more the tires lean, the better they will perform mid-corner. This is because the contact patch of the tire will be larger as the tire starts to lean to one side. Toe determines the orientation of the tires when viewed from the top of the car. The front wheels can be set to toe out, meaning they will open outwards. This is going to make the car more responsive. Rear toe can point more inwards. This adds stability but reduces responsiveness, but it will also generate more heat and tire wear. For this next part, you want to pay attention because this is where F125 has made a major overhaul. A lot of these settings have changed compared to last year. For the suspensions, think of this as the springs of the car. The softer it is, the more grip you're going to have at low speed. However, if you run the suspension too soft, you might bottom out when going into big bumps or at high speed due to the compression and rapid decompression of the springs at high speed. And this is something that's been added this year that's made the physics system a lot more realistic, and I'm more than excited about this. If you do happen to bottom out or lose your car in high speed, try stiffening the rear suspension. That way, the car's behavior is going to be more predictable at high speed. When making a setup for any given track, you always have to compromise between low speed and high speed performance. Take a look at your baseline setup. Do you feel like the front tires are not gripping up in low speed? Try softening the front suspension a little bit. Do you feel like the rear wants to kill you in S's or during rapid changes of directions? Try stiffening the rear suspension. Do you feel like the car is turning too much at low speed and you can't put the power down? Try softening the rear suspension. When it comes to anti-roll bars, the name kind of gives it away. This setting allows you to control the roll of the car mid-corner. More specifically, it allows it to limit the body roll. In other words, how much liberty are you giving your car in its natural movement? The stiffer the anti-roll bar, the less your car will want to lean or roll. The front and the rear anti-roll bars have different effects on the behavior of the car. Let's take a look together. For the front anti-roll bar, a stiffer setting will make the car more responsive when you first give that input. This makes it an ideal choice for fast corners and rapid changes of directions. Think of fast chicanes, S's, all that stuff. A softer setting is better for low speed corners because it allows the front to lean more as the corner goes on. For the rear anti-roll bar, it is pretty similar to the front, but it applies to the rear axle of the car. There's going to be a small difference. The softer you go, the more your rear is going to be allowed to lean. The more it leans, the more the car is going to want to rotate. A lively rear creates more rotation and oversteer. The stiffer you go, the more the rear is going to be locked down, and that is going to create stability and understeer. Do you feel like the car is too loose mid-corner? Add a few clicks of rear anti-roll bar. If you feel like the car does not rotate enough mid-corner, try softening the rear anti-roll bar. And for the final section of the suspension page, this is also a section that has been briefly touched on by the devs compared to last year. The default values have been tweaked. This is the clearance of the car versus the asphalt. Lower means more responsiveness, but if you run over a big curve or a big bump, you might just bottom out and, for a lack of a better expression, die. In that case, you could lose control of the car mid-corner or lose top speed on straights. You want to run your ride height settings as low as you possibly can because it allows other parts of the car to be more effective. This is because of the Venturi effect. I'm not going to go into the detail of how or why but it works by creating a low pressure zone under the floor of the car. The closer you are to the ground, the stronger its effects. Remember to take your suspension settings into consideration when choosing the right ride height settings. Lower ride height requires stiffer suspensions to not bottom out, but a higher ride height will allow your suspensions to be more soft. With the brakes, you can control the stopping power of the brakes. A higher setting means you can brake later, but you might lock up if you ask too much from your tires. You can also control brake bias, which is another way of asking how much of the braking do you want to be done by the front versus the rear of the car. A bigger number means more work will be done by the front. The more braking is done by the front, the more stability you will have. But since the grip of those front tires are finite, if you ask too much of them, or if you are braking and turning at the same time, you might lock your front tires and go straight on. The more braking is done by the rears, the more you're going to free up your front tires to do the turning. This is going to create more rotation, but it will be a lot less stable. This is especially risky in a race as your tires become older and older. Generally, as the race goes on, you want to move the brake bias more and more towards the front. For the tire pressures, it is pretty straightforward. The higher the PSI you run for each individual tire, the cooler they will run. It also reduces rolling resistance, which increases top speed on straights. Lower tire pressures provide more grip at low speed, but it will generate more heat on the tire surface, which might lead to overheating if you're not careful. As a rule of thumb, run max pressures pretty much everywhere, unless your tires are too cold to be in the optimal temperature range. And voila! I hope this guide has helped you feel more confident content going into the world of setup building ahead of F125. Feel free to save and to revisit this video as many times as you need to. If you're looking to discuss with like-minded people about setups, my Discord server is a great place to do that. I will leave the link in the description below. Stay tuned for a lot more F125 content coming your way. This is Formula Kai signing off. Happy hunting.